Hey coaches, hopefully you can see that okay. I might tilt that down a bit so that light's not in the way. Okay, so actually this week, not necessarily just tomorrow, we are retesting the Snatch and the clean and jerk, I believe. So we're at the end of the cycle for Mayhem. We'll be starting a new one in about 2 weeks. They usually have kind of like a 2-week period where it's kind of deload. They're not doing a whole lot of lifting. So anyway, we're gonna be testing that this week, and since we have a handful of newer people in the gym that don't need to be testing a max for the squat snatch, I will have an option in there for level 1 or anyone that does not want to find their max, which is fine, older athletes, for whatever reason, injured people, whatever. So this week on Monday, when we do this squat snatch, for the level 1, we're gonna be doing kind of EMOM style snatch from the hip, snatch from the hang. So what we're trying to drill into them this week is the difference in those positions and making sure that we're not like blending them together and making them look kind of like the same position, because they're definitely different and there's different reasons for that. So I just want to go over a little bit of those just in case you get the questions from them, and this will help you to kind of explain it a little bit better. So the hip snatch, we want the bar to travel with our hip. We have a lot of power in our dip drive, and we want that bar to travel. So many times when they're snatching, if the bar gets away from them or they start to pull with their arms, they're not understanding that the closer you keep the bar to your body and getting it to your hip with the knees bent, if the bar moves with your hips, there's a ton of power there. So if you see a lot of early pullers, they just don't understand this concept that we got to get the bar back to the hip. So to reinforce that, I'm going to kind of go from side view here. When I dip for my hip snatch here, as you can see, my shoulders are either going to be kind of right on top of that bar or sometimes even slightly behind. That's fine too, but we want the force to be coming from our leg drive vertically. So from here, it's just dip straight down, shoulders over your heels, and then jump and catch, okay? So there's none of this going on, no dipping in front of the bar with those shoulders. It's literally just a vertical movement, teaching them that the power is coming from their legs. If you need to, it can also be a muscle snatch in the beginning. I like muscle snatch because it really teaches them how to open their hip all the way. I kind of exaggerated that one. But people that tend to, when they snatch, I'll try and do it in slow motion. They jump, but they never like fully extend here. It's because they're getting under the bar too soon. So they're kind of like doing that number. I don't know if you could tell, but I kind of jumped. I never opened my hips, and then I pulled myself down to the bar. So if your athletes have that issue of not fully extending, having them do some muscle snatch where they're only dipping and then locking out the knees, this forces them to open their hip all the way. So I'm kind of backtracking a bit, but that is something that corrects that lack of full extension on the second pull. Early arm bend sometimes is what happens, but have them do some muscle snatches in their warm-up. Okay, going from the hip snatch, and again, we're just gonna keep this landing in a power position because they might be newer, may not have that good overhead squat yet. Okay, we're gonna go into the hang. So you're gonna see in the programming 4 hip snatches, 4 hang. From here, we're gonna soften the knees, just like we were on our hip snatch. But from here, we want the hips to go back and the shoulders are gonna come slightly forward, okay? This movement isn't just all hips back and now I'm tipping over into my heels. And it's not pushing yourself over the bar. This should be a balanced movement. And I always like to say, I almost feel like when I'm going into the hang, if my barbell is the centerpiece, my hips are traveling just as far back as my torso comes forward. So it's almost like, a triangle in a way. It should be a very balanced position. This should feel balanced. And if they have a hard time finding this position, if they're like too tipped over or they're too set back, just have them do a couple slide, scoop, slide, scoop. So it's like shoulders go in front of the bar, shoulders finish behind the bar, okay? So this helps just kind of some muscle memory, and then they can slide, scoop, jump and catch, okay? So that position can be hard to find, especially when they're coming from the ground. getting from the ground into that good hang position, it's like, whoa, where was I at again? So the slide scoops kind of can help for muscle memory. Other than that, let's get these newbies, let's get, you know, some people that are still unsure with the snatch, really comfortable with those two positions. Torso position is upright in the hip, and then again now, when we go to the hang, instead of it all being lateral and mostly quads, now in the hang, we're bringing in our posterior chain, our hamstring, our butt, our low back. So when we marry the posterior chain with our jump, which is a lot of quad movement, those two large muscles are going to give us a lot of power to elevate that bar. If it just becomes a hinging motion, we're missing out on our jump. If it just becomes, too much of a squatty snatch, I would call it, like when people try and go to the hang and their just knees go forward, then they're missing out on all the posterior chain back here. So there's reason in making sure those positions are correctly. You guys are doing an awesome job. Most of the snatching I'm seeing is really good. Some people just really struggle. Like every day is Groundhog Day. You're gonna have to teach them over again. It's okay, but just, have these tools in your toolbox so that you'll be able to pull them out as needed. Let me know if you guys have any questions.